of driving, which you'll see here on this bracket. This is the quick disconnect bracket. It's got little indexed marks there where it snaps onto the body of the brake controller and has a little adjustable bracket on top. If you don't want to go with the quick release option, they also go ahead and include an old school, just flat metal bracket with the proper holes. Both will allow the correct amount of tilt to fit up to your dash, but again, this is the quote-unquote permanent. This is the quick disconnect unit. They do include a little generic wiring harness here. This is universal if you don't buy the specific plug-and-play harness like I got over there. It's a regular flat 4-pin style connector that mates into the back of the unit and has 4 unterminated wires that you need to go ahead and properly hook up. Now, I don't really have to worry about that because I bought this. And as you can see, it's got the same flat 4 on this side. But this side here uses the GM style. See if you can get it there. The GM style sort of Molex plug. This will plug directly into the trailer wiring interface under my dash. We'll take a look at more about this in just a few seconds. And here in our fancy carrying case, we have the Tekonsha P3 main unit itself. And there it is. Focus. There you go. On the front, you can see the readout screen. That is a little variable color LED readout screen. Our navigation buttons here, increase and decrease. These will also help us navigate the menu. This is the boost button. We'll talk a little bit about that more once we get around to installing this thing, but the basic idea is it lets you add a proportional amount of extra boost to your trailer brake control, and that's one of those things you'll have to get dialed in once we get around to doing all the other settings on this. You've also got sort of the menu button here. This again will help us access the menus, recall saved settings, and do some navigation. The feature right away you'll see on the bottom is this little lever right here. That is a manual engage. It's designed for helping test the trailer wiring. When you go ahead and pull this, even if the vehicle isn't moving, there's no inertia, no momentum, it will lock the trailer brakes up so you can make sure they're fully working. That is actually really important. You don't want to have to be going 25 miles an hour before you realize that one of your trailer brakes fails. You can just go ahead here and manually engage it. This thing's got some heft. The bottom is solid cast aluminum. Probably weighs 2.5 pounds, with the top portion being all plastic here. This here is one of the little indexing places, as there is on the side, for that quick disconnect bracket that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Let's see if you guys can see here if it focuses. There we go. This just snaps right down, and there. And now, the brake controller is technically removable. This would go ahead and bolt to your dash. Something, you know, sitting like that. You're done. You don't want to leave it in the vehicle overnight, or you're in an area where maybe it's not going to be being used. Go ahead, pop the sides free. They loosen up like that, and it comes right out. It's a lot easier to do when this thing is mounted. So, the construction seems pretty nice. I mean, it's nothing super fancy. There's our wiring connector on the back for our harness here. Again, the flat 4 goes right in there, or the generic wiring if you were to use it. So, there's the body, like selectable colors. All that, though, has to get set up once this thing is powered up and in a vehicle. So the next logical step, let's take this thing out to the Yukon and mount it up. It's cold as hell. It's like 18 degrees right now. I'm not super thrilled. But luckily this install should go pretty quickly from this point on because everything is pretty much plug and play. Like I said, because I got that plug and play wiring harness, it means I'm not terminating wires, running stuff through the firewall, doing any of this. So I'll show you guys that. We'll get the lead for that hooked up and run, and then we can mount the actual unit itself. All right, well, we're here under the dash of the Yukon, and all the way on the left side, you can see this little box down here. Now, under that is a bunch of pretty interesting stuff that is gonna be useful to know if you're gonna have one of these trucks for a while. You can go ahead and pull this cover off. It's just got a thumb screw right on it here. And that, come on, comes right off of there. And then you guys can see, if I can get the camera in here, we have this little sort of junction block that has a bunch of wiring harnesses and plugs going into it. It's on a hinge here. Come on. Way over on the side, it's really hard to see. And that can actually drop this down and out of the way if you need to. But for what we need, we just need these two up here. Actually, just this one. If you'll notice, that matches up perfectly to this plug we have here on the end of our plug and play wiring harness. And of course, the other end is the one that lines up perfectly with the back of our trailer brake controller. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this harness in. Okay, so when I run it over there, now you can see it is coming out on the far side here, exiting a bit more to the far right side of our dash. I'm going to secure that with a couple zip ties. But before I do that, let's go ahead and lay out our mounting position for the bracket here, which of course is going to affect where that brake controller sits. These under dash locations are pretty typical. We just need to accommodate for the angle of the dash. Okay, here's that bottom side of the dash there. And I'm thinking, based on the size of the controller, you're going to want to put it right about there, as far over to the right as I can, to not interfere with my leg. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to hop in here and just test our clearances to see if that's going to work. Okay, so I'm sitting in a pretty natural seating position. I'm tall and my seat's pretty far back, but you can see there's still a good amount of room here. At no point is my leg really going to be up here for any reason, which gives us plenty of clearance to fit the trailer brake controller. Also makes it easy to grab with my right hand if I need to hit that emergency button or make any changes. Also makes viewing of the display a lot easier. My viewing height's a little bit more up here, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and get the bracket marked out and we can screw this thing into place. All right, guys, so the trailer P3, zoom in there a little bit. There we go, so we know it's getting power, all the wiring works. Press any key to continue, or A key to continue. There we go, display, setup, brake type, all that good stuff. Of course, help, we can go into display if we want, and adjust things like brightness, color, contrast, all those things to fit the way I want it to work and look in my truck.